So when you adjudicate Snake River Basin water rights, the Attorney General's office sits down with everybody who has a stake in this and says, you're entitled to that water, you're not entitled to that water. I mean, physically, how does it work?
Okay.
How does it actually work, and what is it that's being adjudicated, and what did we see when we have adjudication?
So let's start with the easy part of it. The first thing you do is everyone that believes they have an entitlement to water will file a claim in the adjudication. And they will say, this is what I believe I am entitled to, or I own. Next step will be the Department of Water Resources will look at every individual claim. And in this case, we had over 158,000 claims. And the department will look at it, look at the facts and the history behind that water right, and say, this is what I think you're entitled to. So the department will make a recommendation.
So there's just, at that point, just a staffer that makes a recommendation?
Well,
or
it's
is there
not
like a hearing officer or a
it's a staff person that does that, but there's
a staff person from the Department of Water Resources.
Right, that has specialized knowledge and experience in understanding the system. So then the next step would be that anybody who disagrees with what the department's recommendation is gets to come in and file what's called an objection. Once an objection is filed, then that issue goes to court. And that's where we, as the Attorney General's office, normally got involved, is once the objections were before the court, we would litigate on behalf of the state on what we thought those claims should look like.
So defending the recommendation of the department?
Yes.
Okay.
The other area that we worked in, and this is, it'll take a second to explain it, but most people are familiar with state law. So you get a water right under state law under the prior appropriation system. Under federal law, there's an exception called the Federal Reserve Water Right Doctrine, which is that when Congress or the executive reserve lands for a specific purpose, then there can be an implied reserved water right under federal law. It's not subject to beneficial use limitations. Its priority date is the date of the reservation, and it's for the primary purposes for which the reservation was created.
Wilderness or
right.
There.
Yeah, we had a big fight over wilderness. It was a big litigation. So anyway, they will file those claims. Our primary responsibility was to defend the state's interest with regard to those federal claims.
And would they come in at that same point that everybody else is arguing? Or
they would come in with their claims. They wouldn't go through the director's report. They would just simply file their claims, and then everybody would file, that had an interest would file objections to those claims, and then we would litigate those issues.
And then you just go from town to town, or city to city, or county to county? How do you say, okay, we're going to accept claims on the rights to the creek behind Bill Manny's house? How did you go about it systematically so that you could? Did you start in one place and move across the state, or did you just entertain all claims?
No, we did it by basin. There was actually a lot of planning that went in. It was, I guess it was fortuitous the Shoshone-Bannock tribe asked us not to commence the adjudication because once we had that spare time or space in there, I traveled around to Montana, Wyoming, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, just to talk to various states to see how they had put their adjudications together, because we looked around and no state was really being very successful, so we wanted to kind of learn from those experiences. The department did the same thing. We then came together, we brought together a group that drafted the amendments, the 1985 amendments to the adjudication statute, designed to try to incorporate the Federal Reserve water rights. We developed a steering committee through the SRBA District Court, which was composed of the stakeholders, attorneys. We worked on laying out a process for how we were going to do it. We did it basin by basin. We tried to, department has different regional offices, so we tried to spread it out so we could work back and forth between the basins and put together a time frame for it. So it was a lot of planning went into it.
So it would be
back up again. That made you think about why you stayed in the job because of
just the history that I've learned throughout this process. You know, understanding the state, its interests, the people. You know, what makes us who we are. It's been really a fascinating story.
But you've also become a major player in the state's history.
Well, only history will tell that story.